Hi guys. So welcome back to English 2. Today I'm going to be starting with the reading for the first chapter of Fallen Angels. Now, I don't know if I'm going to read every chapter just because there is an audiobook that's available to you through Classroom. And ultimately, I do think the guy in the audiobook does a better job than me. My voice doesn't fit this book. It's the main character is a young man, and so I think that the reader they chose for the novel in the audiobook is super helpful. However, I would like to read to you today because I think it's really important to kind of have a heads up as to kind of when you're starting a novel, what that looks like, and having a little bit of guidance on that one. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to at least read today and tomorrow. I might take a day or two off next week and have you guys listen or read to yourselves. I just don't know if there needs to be two versions of this novel on the internet. But if you have a feeling either way, leave it as a comment below, I guess. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't think that life's going to be for me. All right, so I'm going to pull up the question and the reading set. Um, and so let me pull that up for you guys real quick. All right, so you'll notice that I've changed spots since the last time we read together. I'm going to be in your upper left-hand corner now versus the bottom right. However, I think it's just for my ease so that you can make sure you see the questions. Um, if you don't like where I've moved to, just let me know. I'm really making these for you, not for me. All right. As always, I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes. And if we don't get through it in 20 minutes, we'll come back to it tomorrow. But I don't think this chapter is going to take that long. Um, so, 20 minutes. There it is. Okay. So, as I've already said, this novel is set in the Vietnam War, with the narrator being a young 17-year-old Richard Perry. So Richie's only about a year to a year and a half older than some of you, and he enlisted in the army um, during a time when we were in the Vietnam conflict. And he's going to kind of go through a huge change. This is technically a coming of age story. It's the loss of innocence, it's the loss of, kind of that naive mask we all wear when we're young as we get experienced to some of the newer things that come with life. And so the language is a little gruff. I apologize if that bothers you. However, I think it's really respective of the time. All right, so I have the questions pulled up on the right-hand side of our screen, and I have a question, or I have the reading pulled up on our left-hand side. So I'm going to get started reading today. Feel free to listen to me or listen somewhere else, but this is just to kind of help you guide you through the questions today. All right. Somebody must have told them suckers I was coming. Told who? I asked. Well, the Kongs, man. Who do you think I'm talking about? Why do you think somebody told them you were coming? Well, because I don't see none of them around here. They don't want their butts kicked. Yeah, okay. I looked at the guy's name tag and it read Gates. Hey, Gates, I'll tell you as soon as I see some Kongs. I'm going to the bathroom, he said. Make sure there ain't none in there. Right. I watched him wade through a sea of GIs, stopping now and then to talk to one of them. Does he really think we're in Vietnam already? Specialist 5th Class Judy Duncan looked sharp in her dress uniform as she leaned against the Coke machine. Many of us were in fatigues, the Army's work clothes. I had been sitting next to Judy on the flight from Massachusetts. She had brought an assortment of snacks to eat on the plane and was now digging into a bag of potato chips as we waited for the plane to refuel in Anchorage, Alaska on our way to Nam. He's a clown, I said. On the plane, he asked a captain to wake him up when we reached Kong City. Where did you say you were from? New York, I answered. You? I tell most people I'm from Dallas, she said, but I'm really from Irving. Well, that's right outside of Dallas. I don't think anybody is really from Dallas anymore. I always like this exchange between our narrator and Judy, because think about it, like when you're from a small town, people ask you where you're from, sometimes you'll just say like the biggest town near you because it's way too difficult to just tell them that you're from like the tiniest town in the middle of nowhere. I used to do that. Um, you took advanced training at Fort Devens? Uh-huh. Sam Houston in Texas. I did basic there and then went right into medical school. I got assigned to the hospital in Devens, but it got boring. Now you get to see the world? Something like that, she said. She had a nice smile. I think somebody figures if I see Nam first, everything else is going to look good to me. The plane had been half empty coming from Massachusetts to Anchorage, and we picked up about 50 more guys in Anchorage, most of them infantry from Fort Lewis. There were a few nurses from the group, too, and Judy went and sat with them. We were served dinner shortly after we were airborne, but I wasn't hungry. I usually can't eat when I'm nervous, and going to Nam made me nervous. The only reason I was going anyway was because of a paperwork mess up. At first, my unit was scheduled to go to Nam, but the doctor at Fort Devens had said that my knee was too bad for combat duty, and I was assigned to a supply company while I waited for orders. But then my old company didn't go to Nam. They went to Germany instead, which was cool because there wasn't any fighting going on over there. And then I got orders for Nam. Look at it this way, Perry, the captain had said. The only reason you're going to Nam is because it takes forever to process a medical profile. And once it catches up with you, you'll be headed home. In the meantime, you'll get to go to Nam. They'll put you behind a desk in some headquarter company, and the worst thing that'll happen to you is that you catch a social disease in downtown Saigon that'll rot your Twinkie off. I hadn't been too worried about going to Nam. From what I had heard, the fighting was almost over anyway. Our next stop was Osaka, Japan, and I slept most of the way. We landed at a commercial airport because some kind of disturbance at the military facilities. There was supposed to be a change of planes, but they didn't have another plane available till morning. The tall, square-shouldered first lieutenant gave out meal tickets. We were told that we could use them at the airport cafeteria. The people in the cafeteria were civilians. They didn't want any part of our meal tickets, even though Sergeant explained to them, the head of the cafeteria, that the U.S. Army would redeem them. Two corporals made some noise about taking over the cafeteria. What finally went down was that we all bought our own dinners. Typical Army. We spent the rest of the night sleeping on benches in the airport, and a lot of Japanese civilians gave us the once-over. I brought a few souvenirs to send home, a little parasol for Mom, some Japanese comics for my brother Ken. By morning, the cafeteria mess was straightened out, and we ate everything we wanted. I talked with Judy at breakfast, and she told me how she wanted to be a garbage man when she was a kid. The trucks were just like the best thing I had ever seen in my life, she said. She had ordered an order of scrambled eggs and bacon and a small mountain toast, which was quickly disappearing. When I found out that I couldn't be a garbage man, I settled for being a movie star, but it was definitely second best. She asked me what I had wanted to be when I was a kid, and I told her most of the time I'd wanted to work in a drugstore and wear one of those white coats with the buttons on the shoulders. Yeah, she shook her head approvingly. That's what I like about you, Perry. You know all the good stuff, and buttons on the shoulders are definitely the good stuff. And when the plane took off for the final hop to Nam, the conversation got quieter. Everybody who could was looking out of the windows. Okay, listen up. A sergeant stood in the aisles with a clipboard. We are scheduled to arrive in Tan Son Net, in the Republic of Vietnam, at 1400 hours. When you deplane, you will form 4 ranks in the area designated by Lieutenant Wilson. There will be no grab-ass, no excessive running of the mouth, and no wandering around. Is that clear? Yes, Sergeant, came the familiar chorus. You will have your gear ready to deplane the moment we touch down. Is that clear? Yes, Sergeant. I had to go to the John. I thought about it for a while and looked backward at the plane's Johns. Too late. The line already stretched halfway down the aisle. It's 13:20 hours, 20 minutes past 1 o'clock civilian time. We'd be in Nam in less than an hour, and I thought of writing Mom and took out my paper, and all I could think of was the date. It was September 15th, 1967. Hey, Perry. Judy was leaning over my shoulder. How's it going? Okay, look, I just found out that the nurses are going right to Chu Lai, and I wanted to wish you luck. Oh, hey, thanks. I shook her hand. Where's Chu Lai? Who knows? She shrugged. Hot, muggy, bright, muggy. That was the airport at Tan Son Net. We deplaned, followed Lieutenant Wilson across the field into the area of some Quonset huts and started forming ranks. It took a while. The sergeant with the clipboard came along and tried to encourage us the best he could. You faggots can't even line up in a straight line. How are you going to fight? He shouted. He kept on yelling, and Lieutenant Wilson started yelling, and we finally got an order. Then a captain came out, and we turned over to him. The sergeant's clipboard was turned over to him. Medical personnel assigned to the 67th Group or the 312th or the 23rd Battalion fall out and get in those buses over there. Everybody else, stand at ease. And when the medics fell out, Judy waved at me again, and some of the guys told me to go give her a kiss. That's what they do in the war movies, one guy said. I didn't really know Judy, and I probably wouldn't have had the nerve to kiss her in front of everybody, even if I did. We watched the medics go towards the bus while the rest of us stood in the sun. I checked my watch. It was 14:30 hours. The next time I checked my watch, it was 15:30 hours, and we were still standing in the sun. Once I had figured that the 7 months I had spent in the Army, 4 of them had been standing around waiting for something to happen. Vietnam might have been a different place, but the Army had not changed. Vietnam, there were mountains in the distance. A helicopter hovered over at the far end of the field, tilted at a crazy angle, and then flew off. I watched it until it was almost out of sight. Most of the guys around the landing field were in fatigues, no different than Fort Devens, except that half of them carried their rifles with them. There were a lot of pistols, too. You didn't see many pistols stateside. There were Vietnamese soldiers, too. They were smaller than I thought they would be. I tried not to stare. A rumbling noise went off to my left, sounded like a distant thunder. We all knew it was artillery. My stomach felt queasy. Guys started looking at the ground. This was Nam. We had roll call. I listened for the sergeant to call my last name, which he did. I responded with my first, Richard. 2 Marines. They'd obviously been in Nam. A while came over and stood near the sergeant and then looked at us. They were unshaven. Their uniforms looked worn, darker than ours. One of them was wearing a necklace of some kind. The other had a peace symbol painted on his helmet. And they were odd-looking guys. They were old-looking guys, older than any of the guys just coming in. We went back to waiting in the sun. We waited until 1600 hours when the trucks came. I was assigned to the 22nd Replacement Company, and that's where I met Gates again, the guy who had been looking for Kongs in Anchorage, and we bunked next to each other. Gates was brown-skinned. He had reddish hair and freckles, and I thought I was going to like him. You see any Viet Cong? I asked. Yeah. You see that girl coming in here a moment ago? The one cleaning the barracks? Yeah. She's a Cong, man. There were 3 or 4 Vietnamese civilians around our barracks. 2 are painting the decorative rocks around the headquarters, the kind of thing that we all did at stateside, and the other 2 were cleaning inside. They're not Viet Cong. Who told you that? Well, it figures. We're fighting the Viet Cong. You don't fight somebody and then hire them to clean up. I remember back home, this boy came into a pool room. Where's back home? It's Chicago. Gates was lying on his back in his bunk. Anyway, this dude comes into the pool room and he knows he's a good pool shot. See, so he hustled this other dude to a pool game for $20 and beat him. Yeah, go on. Well, he figured he was supposed to get his money, Gates said, but that boy he beat didn't want to pay him, so he shot him in the stomach. Gates stopped talking and started taking off his boots. So that's the end of the story. What's the end of the story? I asked. Well, that is the end. The dude that done figure and done figured wrong. That's why you shouldn't be figuring that chickie over there doing the cleaning ain't no Kong. Right. I started riding home. The Vietnamese cleaning lady came in again. She started dusting around the bunks, and I looked over at Gates, and he was looking at me, and he smiled. Hey, Gates, I know you're wrong. Don't be calling me no Gates, he said. You can call me Pee-wee. Okay, Pee-wee. You're still wrong. Okay, I can prove it to you, Pee-wee said. Watch this. Hey, you, he sat up and called to the Vietnamese woman. Mama Kong. The woman looked at him, shrugged, and turned away. Mama Kong, you repeated, louder. She probably doesn't even understand English, I said. A couple of guys turned to see what Pee-wee was doing. Why she don't split, Pee-wee said. The woman turned again, looked at Pee-wee, and then left. See? There was a big smile on his face. She's Kong. That's why she left. She knows Pee-wee's got her number. If you talked crazy at me, a heavy red-faced guy called over to Pee-wee, I'd leave too. That's because you probably a Kong too, Pee-wee said, and an ugly-ass Kong. The man stood up. He seemed twice as big as he did sitting. He came over to Pee-wee's bunk and put his foot on Pee-wee's bed. Boy, he said, I just finished 7 months of ranger training learning how to kill little people like you, so why don't you just shut up? Yo, what's your name? Pee-wee called over to me. Perry. Perry, did this Peckerwood just call me boy? I think you'd better leave him alone, I said. Yeah, but did he just call me boy? I can answer for myself, the ranger said. Yes, I did call you boy. Boy. Pee-wee turned and looked as if he was going to put his feet on the floor, and instead he shot both legs into the ranger's crotch. The man doubled over, and Pee-wee punched him on the side of the head and laid back, put his hand under his pillow, and pulled out a knife. It clicked open with the flick of a wrist. Now you can get up. Start beating on me if you want, Pee-wee said. But if you do, I'm going to cut your damn throat as soon as you get to sleep. Ranger got up to Pee-wee, started sputtering something about if Pee-wee didn't have the knife, what he would do. I put Pee-wee in my letter to Mama. All right. So for this very first question, so that's all you're going to be able to answer from this first chapter. I want you guys to cover, you'll need to add Perry, Pee-wee. You'll also need to add Judy. And then that's the only 3 people we're going to cover for this first chapter. So the Army seems really hard. You've got people all kind of there to prove themselves, and some people are more desperate to do that than others. Maybe Pee-wee brought a knife and pulls it on somebody. And so just kind of keep an eye out for that. I mean, it's Perry's first day. He literally pairs up with a guy who thinks everybody's out to get them, and then he beats up another guy and threatens him with a knife. Sounds kind of intense to me. All right, so we'll come back to this tomorrow and we'll finish up the questions together. If you have any questions at all, though, please text me. I'm happy to help. All right, have a great day, and I will see you guys later.